Welcome back. If you haven't been keeping up, this is the third part of Zakir Naik proves the existence of hell to an atheist. It's not all that compelling so far. Let's see if it gets better this time.
One good reason why robbing is bad for me, and I will stop robbing.
It hurts others. It hurts people.
It hurts others. What difference does it make to me?
That sounds like a good point within this pure selfishness framework that we're just assuming for some reason. But actually, it's not even true for most people. Okay, you can say this mob boss, hypothetical mob boss that you're setting up, is a complete psychopath. He literally has no concern for anyone. Or maybe he does, but maybe he only has concern for, his family, his clan, whatever the term would be. Obviously, people tend to be groupish. They tend to favor their own group much more strongly than other people, sometimes to tragic extremes. But to pretend that that's all humans are, to pretend like that's the only way that we act and think in general, is just a denial of a great deal of human experience. I mean, there are plenty of stories about someone, stealing a chocolate bar when they knew they weren't going to get caught and having it twist in their stomach for the next 20 years. Not because this person is afraid to go into hell, but either just because of the belief that it's wrong for whatever reason, or because of probably the more important fact that it creates a low-trust society. If everybody acts like that, if everyone says, well, nobody will ever know, I could just do it, yeah, you could, but the society will get increasingly more suspicious, increasingly more locked down. This is why when you check out at Walmart, you feel like you're cattle being herded through a bunch of gates, being glared at by some security guard. It feels awful. It just makes the world a less pleasant place. And plus, of course, if everybody acts on those impulses, poverty goes up, other crime goes up. Small-scale shoplifting on an individual level, if a lot of individuals do it, causes poverty, causes misery, degrades neighborhoods horribly. It can even make businesses just shut down or pick up and leave. The example is of the boss of the mafia or something, but that's not most people. Most people are just people, living in relatively close proximity with a bunch of other people, and depending on those people. Reciprocity is important. Reputation is important. Feelings of trust and goodwill make your home a much better place for you. I think a society is much better to live in when people feel open and cheerful and willing to help each other out because they haven't been taken advantage of by everybody else. Is losing that worth the chocolate bar? I wouldn't say so.
If it hurts, if I rob 1,000 riyal, it is benefiting me. I can see movie. I can go to a 5-star hotel. What difference does it make whether it hurts others? Does it hurt me?
It's just a very interesting way of looking at morality. I mean, morality is such a multifaceted thing. Human societies are so complex with so many moving parts, so many different relationships going on. To express the idea of morality itself, not just for some specific psychopath that we're talking about, but for everyone. To define morality in this purely selfish way with nothing else involved is very strange. And then, of course, for most people, in most times, in most places, it's not even true. I hear this argument made a lot, and it's being made better here than I usually hear it, because here, the hypothetical being presented is you're a very powerful person who's basically untouchable. He'll clarify later that that's specifically what he means. But a lot of the time when I hear it, it's why would anyone bother to be not just a selfish asshole tyrannizing everyone else? Why would you possibly not just go out and steal from everyone? Why would you not just go out and rape women in the street? Why would you not abuse everyone around you horribly to make your life better? Well, because it's not going to make your life better. Even if you don't care at all about anyone but you, they're going to care about you, and you're going to find out. You can make an argument about dictators and, people in extreme positions of power with military backing and so forth, but bring it down to earth. That's almost nobody who ever existed in the history of humanity.
I told you, prove to me why it is bad for me, not for others. I am least bothered about the others.
I am endlessly confused by the things that crowd claps at.
Why is it bad for me? When I'm robbing 1,000, if it hurts him, no problem. What difference does it make to me? If it hurts somebody else, does it make a difference to me? I can enjoy, I can see movie. I can eat chicken biryani. I asked you, give me one logical reason why it is bad for me, not why it is bad for others. I'm a big mafia. I'm powerful. I'm a scientific person, logical person. Prove to me one good reason, logical, why robbing is bad. I will stop robbing. Come on. Another try, brother.
Prove why it's bad for me. Prove why it's bad for me. Prove why it's bad for me. Prove why it's bad. Did he just forget to say for me at the end there? Or does he mean robbery is bad is the same statement as robbery is bad for me? Because those are not the same statement. They're only the same for you if you have a total lack of social instinct, or if it's been completely suppressed, and your worldview acknowledges only yourself. That happens, but it's not that common. It's not that difficult to get people to care not that much at all about people outside what they perceive to be their group. But it is hard to get people to not care about anyone but themselves. History's worst atrocities, Nazis and all the big ones, all the bad ones, I don't have to name them. Those weren't about people being dedicated only to themselves. They were about people taking the dedication to the group to ridiculous extremes. Now, of course, you can get people to care only about themselves. I mean, some people apparently do it naturally, and then severe child abuse can do it. Drug addiction can do it, at least in certain circumstances where that person's really desperate to get high. I would imagine in a lot of cases, regret and shame come along afterwards, and that probably doesn't help the addiction. But the point is, there are ways to get people to not care about other people even within their own group as much. I feel like if we're going to talk about why most people agree with you on the statement robbery is bad, maybe we should talk about the kind of people they are, the kind of people who say that. We should talk about the majority, the norm, the average Joe. Don't talk about the mafia or psychopaths or whatever. They're not the ones saying robbery's bad. Talk about this guy. Talk about why he thinks robbery's bad. He doesn't follow your religion, so it's not that. He might not have even really thought about it before, but he still believes it. Isn't that interesting? Why does he believe it? Why does almost everyone agree with it? I know you're asking him why he agrees with it, but you're not asking him to figure out what his actual reason is. You're asking him to take him off guard so he looks like he has no reason. And it's true, intellectually, he may not even have one. He may not know why he feels that way, but he does. And that's the thing to be explored here. When people have no reason intellectually to believe, say, robbery's bad, they have no religion either, but they still believe it. That would be the thing to talk about here. That's how you really get to the root of how morality works in the average person.
Another try. One more try. Why it is bad? No answer.
That crowd, I never stop being surprised when they clap. And look at these three guys, they're loving it. Grins from ear to ear, like as if a point has been made.
No answer. Try. There are 20, 30 reasons, 100 reasons you can give.
Actually, as you said, the religion means the way of life.
Not religion. Why robbing is bad? Tell me. Don't go to religion.
No. I'm coming to the point.
No, not point. First tell me why robbing is bad. We'll come back to your point afterwards. I'll come to your point afterwards.
Maybe the guy's trying to make the point about why it's bad. Give him a chance. Jesus.
When that is the way of life.
Not way of life. Tell me why robbing is bad according to you. Why it is bad for me, I will stop robbing.
Up to me, it hurts others. So,
but what difference does it make to me when it hurts others? Does it hurt me?
Of course,
why it is bad for me, not why it is bad for others.
Once we come to the society, we have to face them.
Yeah, exactly. So not a bad point. He said once we come to the society, we have to face them. And that's why it's bad for me. It's not a terrible point. I mean, especially in the example of the mafia. Sure, you can just go around town breaking legs, smashing windows, burning down houses, killing families, robbing everyone blind. That's an option, but it's much easier to just pay off the cops and get the people on your side. And then if you do some shady shit, well, that's just how the mafia is. But they do good things around here, It doesn't matter how powerful you are, life's always going to be easier for you with the people on your side. And that doesn't really just go for the mafia, that goes for life in general. Most things are a whole lot easier when people like you. You tend to do a lot better in life when people are with you, not against you. And sure, if you're organized crime, you're definitely going to make some enemies. But if you keep it limited to some enemies, if you keep it limited to rival crime gangs and maybe the occasional strategic business that you have to coerce, and most people have a positive impression of you, you're probably going to be able to acquire a lot more power and influence a whole lot more easily. My wife's Italian, and the analogy she used is that people to the mafia are like chickens. You, the mafia, keep the chickens safe from the foxes, that is, other criminals. You pay the protection money and they actually protect you. But then the chickens can't complain when you snatch one for your Christmas feast. I asked her what she thought would happen if, instead of keeping the people, roughly speaking, content, avoiding abusing them too much, avoiding getting them too angry, if they just went around pissing off the entire population. And she said she thought they'd just get taken over by other mafia who got paid to deal with them. Which makes sense, you're running a business here and you gotta stay within the realm of reality while you're doing it. Which also means avoiding running it so badly that the competition looks a lot more attractive. So yeah, you get away with some robbing, some coercion, a little bit of extortion for protection money, but you still have to operate within a real-life social framework, so be realistic. Manage your reputation.
Okay, once this come to society, you have to face them. I'm facing them. What's what? Why it is bad for me?
The society won't respect us.
Oh, we gotta look at the women and kids in the back. Sure hope it's a lady running that camera. Otherwise, it'd be very inappropriate.
What difference does it make whether respect or not? I can eat chicken biryani. I can go and see a movie. I can go to a 5-star hotel. What difference does it make to me if society respects or not?
Well, I don't know. How would you feel if everybody paid to get into this event, but then instead of actually enjoying the event and liking what you say, every time you opened your mouth, they started yelling curses at you, spitting at you, throwing tomatoes at you? What difference does it make if they respect you, right? You've got money, you can order some chicken biryani tomorrow.
Imagine someone respects society. The poor person doesn't have food to eat. He'll be happy?
No.
You require food to eat or not? You require food to survive? Only society respecting the person is starving to death.
Oh, so now the mob boss is starving to death and that's why he's stealing money from businesses around town? No, of course not, because you're changing to a more convenient example in the moment. It's not about why is robbery bad for the mafia boss with all the armed guards. Now it's much more convenient to say, what are you saying, respect matters for the starving guy on the street? No, if you're literally starving to death, do what you gotta do. I'm sorry, business owners, but in that case, obviously, the Aladdin exception can apply, but that's not most cases. That's not what your mob boss is doing, and more importantly, that's not what the average shoplifter is doing. Or the average house robber, or the average looter. And regardless of whether those people think respect is important or not, is not really the point. Regardless of whether it matters to the rich and powerful mob boss, whether people around town respect him, isn't really the point either. If we're talking about morality, for the guy you're talking to, who thinks robbery is bad, the respect of people is important to him. He's not going to risk his reputation robbing from a store, even if it moderately financially benefits him. If he's starving to death, okay, yeah, he might reprioritize. But under normal circumstances, no. Not because of the threat of jail, he hasn't even brought that up, but because the perception of the society around him actually matters to him. Which, by the way, probably makes this a very uncomfortable exchange for him. He's going against the grain here. And bravo, I would imagine this probably comes with more social condemnation than stealing a TV. Maybe not, I don't know. I just think making points against the religion of a room full of thousands of religious people from your community, could have some social side effects.
You know, in India, thousands of people are starving to death. What difference does it make?
What difference does what make? Respect to a starving person? Well, it's definitely going to be less of a priority, but interestingly, in a lot of cases, that's still a priority to people. It might become secondary, but a lot of people in that situation don't feel good about it all of a sudden. They feel guilty and shameful and humiliated, and they resist doing it as long as possible until it becomes truly an emergency. And maybe you can say they shouldn't feel like that. Maybe you can say their circumstances excuse it, but people do feel like that. Not everyone, I'm sure, but definitely people do. And again, the question is, why is this? You're in a life or death situation, and you're still worried about what society thinks of you. And not only what society thinks of you, even if you don't get caught, nobody notices. You're worried about what you think of yourself. You don't want to be reduced to this. It doesn't suddenly become, oh, well, it's a matter of survival. I'm what matters. Nothing else matters. Fuck it, nom nom. You might not feel horribly guilty about it. You might not feel like you've done something truly repugnant, but for a lot of people, there's going to be that internal resistance. God or no God, hell or no hell, objective morality or not. I kind of wish this wasn't the format this was being presented in, right? This giant auditorium full of all these people. It would be much more interesting if it were just you and him, or you and someone who shares his opinion, maybe who can articulate it a bit better, maybe who's thought about it a bit more. And then you just have an actual honest conversation about what he thinks about morality, why he thinks it, and sort of get to the bottom of where these moral feelings are coming from within this guy who says he has no religion. It'd probably be an interesting exercise for you. I mean, for me, it's not that interesting at all. I am that person. I don't even have the higher power thing that he says he believes in. So for me, it's just day-to-day life. I'm a human. I do morality just like every other human. But I feel like you could really reach some interesting insights if you had an honest conversation with a person like this. Even on camera, but just away from the big crowds, away from the pressure to be on the ball, away from the need to have gotchas and, make your religion look good.
I must give me one good reason why robbing is bad. I stop robbing. Why it is bad for me?
There it was again. One good reason why robbing is bad, I'll stop robbing. One good reason for me. I think he really does think these are the same thing.
Can anyone else help him out? Why robbing is bad? Why robbing is bad? There are various answers. I'll help you out. You may say, police will catch you.
Well, whether that's a valid answer, I guess depends on the question. Is the question, why is robbing bad, or is the question, why is robbing bad for me? Oh, right, they're the same question.
Good logical reason. Police will come and catch you, correct, right or wrong?
Well, wrong. If the question is, why is robbing bad, the answer isn't because I might go to jail. That's an answer to the question, why should I not rob people? If it was illegal to be really nice to people, and the police would come and catch you for that, does that make being nice to people wrong? What an absolutely foolish conflation.
Police will come and catch you, correct, right or wrong?
Correct.
Oh, come on, dude. Think at least a little bit.
But you didn't give I'm helping you out. But brother, I told you I'm a powerful mafia. The police is in my pocket. Ministers are in my pocket. Big mafia. See, all the top mafia, the police is in the pocket, they're on my payroll. The police is on my payroll. What will they catch me? Small robber like you should not rob. You will get arrested. I'm a top mafia. The police is on my payroll. Even the ministers are on my payroll. They're in my pocket. So small robber like you should not rob. Big mafia like me can rob.
Yeah, I know that there are people who can get away with stuff. I know that there are people with too much power for their own good who can get away with stuff for longer than they should. This is obvious reality. And if we weren't talking about morality, if we were talking about pure consequences, then yeah, there are people for whom consequences don't come. There are people who rob and it ends up not being bad for them in terms of any sort of social consequence or physical consequence. What the consequences are within themselves, I don't know, doesn't really matter. Is anyone arguing otherwise? This is why conflating those two questions of is it bad and is it bad for me is so significant and so harmful to the conversation you're having. Because on the one hand, the for me question, it's just, do consequences come for everyone? Do the chickens always come home to roost? No, obviously not. That's not even a conversation that needs to be had. We know. The guy at the mic knows. Everybody in the room knows. At least if you're talking about worldly consequences, I guess. I'm sure there's a whole lot going on there in terms of afterlife consequences, but that's a different thing.
Another reason, I'll help you out. Maybe somebody will come and rob you. Yes. No one can rob me because I got 100 bodyguards. All of them hiding behind the stage. Bodyguards. Small robber robs, somebody will rob him. No one can rob me because I've got bodyguards. Hundreds of bodyguards with AK-47. So logically, you cannot prove at all why robbing is bad. With all your science and technology, you cannot prove robbing is bad.
That time he didn't even say for me. Now he's just saying if it doesn't affect me personally, it's not bad at all. So seriously, his conception of what the word bad means in terms of morality is just, does it hurt me personally, and to hell with everyone else? So if I kill someone and get away with it, it wasn't morally wrong, is the argument. This from the guy who believes religiously in objective morality. Sometimes people argue that belief in objective morality is healthier for a society than any form of relativism, but if this is the objective morality you want, shove it.
So shall I take it in that way? It is to make people fear that, if you do wrong things, then when you die.
What wrong thing? Where is robbing wrong? First you prove it is wrong, na?
Prove that it's wrong. Prove that I get punished. If I don't get punished, then it wasn't wrong. Imagine you're sitting there having coffee with an old friend or something and you say, oh yeah, remember back in college? Yeah, I kidnapped a girl and chopped her head off in the woods. And your friend's like, what? What the fuck is wrong with you? And you're like, what? I never got caught. What's the problem? You can't prove it was wrong. Don't be so judgy. And your friend goes, oh, you got a point. Okay, so how's work?
Where is robbing wrong? You haven't proved to me robbing is wrong. When you prove robbing is wrong, then you can say don't do wrong things, na?
Yeah.
Therefore, what is good, what is right, you require a creator to tell you.
What does it matter what he says? Just because he says it's wrong doesn't mean there'll be consequences, so it's not wrong. Of course, this is where the hell stuff is going to start coming in, because objective morality isn't about what's objectively right or wrong. It's not about what moral system is woven into the fabric of reality. It's not even about what God says is right or wrong. It's just about what gets you tortured forever. If hell doesn't exist, and God says something's wrong, it's not wrong, because you don't go to hell. That's seriously where we're at right now, and that's seriously what this video is about, and there's a reason I've spent so much time on this. I've seen a fair number of Zakir Naik videos, and this is far and away the worst of them. In fact, I can't recall a worse argument about hell or objective morality that I've ever seen. To be fair, that happens from time to time, that I think it's the worst video I've seen, but at the very least, this one's in tight competition with the top tier of the worst videos.
You require a doctor to tell you what food is good, what food is bad.
They only applauded his worst points. Have you noticed that? The ones that are kind of lukewarm shit, not a sound, but as soon as he gets to the bottom of the barrel, the whole room starts clapping. I don't even know what to think about it. It's so hard to wrap my head around. And also, no, I don't need a doctor to tell me what food is bad. How do you think people figured that out before doctors? Don't be dumb. I know it's an impossible request.
This fruit is poisonous, this is healthy for you. Apple is healthy for you, wild berries are poisonous for you. A doctor tells you.
Yeah, nobody in the history of the world ever knew what berries were poisonous. Also, are doctors trained in botany? Survival eating? You take a berry into the doctor's office and you say, "Hey doctor, I found this berry in the woods. Can you tell me if it's poisonous?" And he goes, "Ah!" Correctly identifies it in the Latin, shows you how to distinguish it from similar looking plants, pats you on the butt and sends you back out. You're a medical doctor. Do you do that? How are you this big of an imbecile?
There's no better doctor than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Ugh, imagine that finger going up there during your prostate exam.
Logically speaking,
Please never say that again.
logically speaking, brother,
Fuck you.
that mafia has got bodyguards. No one can harm him. And believe me, there are many examples. He dies a very comfortable death.
There are, definitely. Mafia bosses, dictators, all kinds of people who did all kinds of terrible things and ended up dying a comfortable death. I agree. Of course, it means absolutely nothing, and we've been talking about this for no reason whatsoever this entire time. It doesn't prove any point about God or hell or objective morality. Doesn't even link up to it at all. The only way it would is if the social opinions and feelings of humans dictated the actions of God. If the way you personally feel the world should be logically demands that God made it that way. In other words, if God is the slave to your emotions, which is an interesting amount of importance to place on human emotion. I thought that wasn't a valid reason to have moral opinions, let alone moral opinions so meaningful and powerful that they enslave God to your will retroactively. So yeah, like I say, there's no real reason to be talking about this because it doesn't establish anything you want to establish, even if you think it does. But let's talk about it some more for no reason. So yes, there are many examples of powerful bad guys who survived through to old age and died either of old age or disease or, in bed. On the other hand, there are plenty of people in history with plenty of power who don't have it so good in the end. I just want to be clear, not everyone in this list is awful, but they were powerful. Tsar Nicholas II, exiled to Siberia and then executed during the October Revolution. Paul Castellano, the mob boss, assassinated on the orders of John Gotti. Nicolae Ceausescu, Romanian dictator, convicted of genocide, executed by firing squad. Saddam Hussein, dictator of Iraq, hanged. Muammar Gaddafi, leader of Libya, beaten, sodomized with a bayonet, and shot. Adolf Hitler, pathetic loser, stuck in a bunker, shot himself. Benito Mussolini, shot. Julius Caesar, stabbed to death by senators. The Roman Emperor, you know what? All these ones assassinated, murdered, executed, deposed, blinded, exiled, mutilated, imprisoned, tortured, or abdicated to avoid becoming the victim of any of the other stuff. Abraham Lincoln, shot. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Some kid shot him so hard it started World War I. John F. Kennedy, Louis XVI, beheaded. Marie Antoinette, beheaded. Maximilian Robespierre, live by the guillotine, die by the guillotine. Are you getting the point? It just goes on and on and on. Now sure, a lot of these people, the really bad ones on the list, got away with a lot more than they should have, through force and fear and systems designed to keep them protected. But the point is, at the end of the day, everyone's human. The point is, even if you don't care what other people think of you, watch your back. Sometimes it comes back to bite you. And even if you do care, even if you try to do good stuff, you can still piss off the wrong person, and even if you're powerful, you can still end up dead. Even the supposedly invincible would be wise to consider their actions carefully. A man with guards is just a man, and so are the guards. Anyway, that's the end of this part. One more part to go. Thanks for watching. If you'd be so kind, please give the video a like and click subscribe if you haven't. Huge thanks to all of my supporters. Sign up to my email list for early access, list.logicked.com, and I'll see you next time.